2020, Community Network Exchange 2020. The session is, the topic of the session is community networks as a model to fight misinformation and fake news. Great task, for all of us to give opinion on that. And I am joined by Waqas Hassan, who is president of Internet Society in Islamabad, Internet Society chapter, I should say, right, Waqas? Yeah, Internet Society chapter in Islamabad. I am joined by Lisa Garcia, who is Executive Director of Foundation for Media Alternative from Philippines. And we have Heru Tjatur. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes, a bit like that, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And Heru Tjatur is a web development consultant, and he also calls himself farmer in training. So it will be interesting to hear his voice, how he is going to give his opinion on community networks is the best model to fight misinformation and fake news. I will start with Waqas, give a first chance to the neighbor. And I would like to let's organize this session that we will speak 3 minutes each to start with, and then we will go 2 minutes each and then 1 minute each. So that will give a lot of perspective to cover. We are certainly going through a huge information flow because of hyperconnectivity, and there is a lot of misinformation and fake news is affecting our life vis-a-vis community networks. So on one side there is a hyperconnectivity, on the other side community network is trying to connect the people who are unconnected, and in the middle of all this misinformation and fake news. Waqas, what is your perspective about this whole dilemma of being unconnected and as well as fighting misinformation and fake news?
Yeah, well, thank you, Sama. This is actually a very interesting session as well, because we're trying to talk about a truly global problem and trying to apply it on a very little small community out there. So I look forward to a great discussion today. I think we are in a sense moving from an information age to a disinformation age, in a way that the world is getting increasingly polarized, and all of that. I think the core issue or the core objective behind that is to gain more data. It's an age of surveillance capitalism. Unless we get more data, since it has become so precious. We think that in this age of world, chaos is actually generating more data than meaningful discussions. Truth has become boring. It doesn't give you more chance to talk about. It doesn't give you more chance to bring more perspectives into this. So the discussion ends when truth comes out. But on the other hand, if it's fake news or disinformation, what we see is that the news actually gets spread faster. There is more data to generate. I was actually reading an interesting study last time, and it suggests that it's an MIT study that fake news on Twitter spread 6 times faster than the true news. So we can all see that where this is going. This is going towards the fact that unless there is there are big techs monetize that data and form this capitalistic model. I think this issue cannot be resolved by the community alone. I think this is where the role of big tech comes into play. And what the things that happen online have offline consequences as well. We've seen people getting lynched and mobbed. Look at the COVID situation. With everybody becoming a health expert, people burning down 5G towers because they think it causes coronavirus and all. So I think this is a very crucial juncture in the history of humanity itself, because unless we control what is happening online, this is going to keep on having those implications on our offline and our physical space as well. And now, if you think about a very small little community out there, which is getting exposed to internet probably for the first time when you deploy a community network there, Of course, they would have hope and aspirations about what internet will bring to them. But if internet starts bringing them false news, fake news, things about chaos and propaganda, uh, it is eventually going to disrupt that community in a very harmful way. Uh, I'm not sure if anybody has seen out there a movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy. It's a 1980 comedy movie in which there's a very native tribe, and a Coca-Cola bottle gets dropped into that community. And then what that Coca-Cola bottle does to the community is actually quite funny and chaotic in itself. So I think when we deploy a community network, we're actually handing over that Coke bottle to the community, and we're not sure about what it's going to do in the end. But I think we can keep our fingers crossed. There are many things that the community network operators can do when they deploy a network there. I think this is what we're going to talk about in the session later on. So I'll stop here and look forward to that discussion later on. Thank you.
Yeah, you really gave a very good perspective about, and incidentally, yes, I have watched that movie, and it's certainly it's a toy in your hand which can do good and bad both, and if you overplay it. Let's go to Lisa. Lisa, you have been associated in the tech propagation for a long time, and you have all this perspective. How would you give your opinion in this area of hyper-connected world with localized connectivity that we are trying to aspire to reach through community networks?
Okay, thanks, Osama. So what I'll do is just add to what Waqas already mentioned, because those are the very same thoughts that most of what he said, or the very same thoughts that I have. I would just like to say that, of course, when we talk about access to information and communication, these are human rights, and these are prerequisites to empowering communities so that they can have access, take control of their lives, make decisions, participate in the community. When we talk about information these days, it is very powerful. Nowadays, information is, we can equate it actually to something like water, food, medicine. This is something that we need these days because they define the decisions that we make. What is accurate and timely information from different sources, trusted sources definitely, can help us make informed decisions. It can help save lives, as we have seen during this pandemic. So when you have accurate and timely information, then it can decrease the risks, the vulnerabilities that communities have. If you don't have information or access to it, then people would feel disempowered also, because their opportunities, their knowledge are limited. And so when there is a problem, then it becomes difficult to solve it because you lack information. So if you're uninformed, then communities, populations can be very much vulnerable to disinformation, propaganda. But sometimes, of course, we know that not all communities are reached by information. There's a limit to the information that they get depending on how connected they are. Sometimes traditional media channels don't even reach people, especially in critical times when it is much needed, or there is not much of it that is being circulated or disseminated. Thus, when that happens, then people sometimes rely on hearsay. There are rumors that they believe because it becomes difficult to fact check information. Thus, I see the importance of community networks here as well, because this is, I think we can see here the role of community networks and how they can be leveraged to provide the much needed information that communities need, especially small communities wherein people mostly know each other. And I'll stop at that.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll go to Indonesia to find out, what kind of perspective Heru has about, bringing, like Waqas said, that bringing internet, which is a global phenomena, in the hands of the local community through community networks. But when you bring it, you also bring global information, all kind of questionable or unquestionable and needed question also, and needed information also. So what's your perspective? That do you think that CN is the model to fight? How is it necessary to fight? What is it required? Or how do we challenge? Because internet is not as novel as it used to be.
Yeah. Well, what we see, the internet and the misinformation, fake news, and etc. is the negative impact or bad side of the hyperconnectivity, because and the phenomena is still driven by the social media. So everyone has them. That's what we see when we established ICT World in 2002, when we try to bring the digital knowledge and digital literacy to the community, when the government, when the private sector and industry introduce internet to the community. So at that time, what we see is very funny, but it's quite frightening or scary when we see that everyone jumping from analog phenomena to the digital, and the digital come from mobile phone. So it's a very rare, or it's not much people that access internet from the desktop. So usually the community member is jump from analog to digital world via mobile phone. So it's for us at that time, it's quite scary, because to live in the digital, there's need some skill or some literacy that should be there, and government, we cannot rely on government to do that. So we start having the activity to spread and to educate people and the user what is the digital, and we hope that community have a skill to use and to and in the last 10 years, the fake news and the hoax that spread around is very scary to us, as we know that most of the driving factor of the spreading the fake news and hoax is from the usually from the political activity and the religion issue. So in that sense, we believe that community network is quite effective, because if the hoax or fake news is spreading in Twitter, there are a lot of people could see it and could set some other comparing information on comparing fact. But the most scary thing is when the hoax and the fake news is spreading to through the discussion forum from the messengers group that usually they are very specific, and most of the fake news related to a religion and related to and in the last several months related to information about COVID or infodemic is quite abundant, is spreading through the WhatsApp group. Usually there's a family. So with this thing, so we have to work out through the community network to fight these fake news or misinformation or disinformation. But to do that, we have to be able to bring the digital literacy into the community base. So we have to do what we have in ICT World in Jakarta. There we have it. We are collaborating with a lot of party, including the government, to trying to educate on one side, to educate people to how to verify the information, how to check how this skill should be one of the pillars of digital literacy that we bring out. And then on the other hand, we have to be available for the resource for people to ask or to find information about what is or we could see the information check or whatever things. So we established several network for that, and hopefully the digital activity, digital literacy activity that we do, and the network that we establish we could hold and trying to control, and I don't know if it's over confident to say to tackle down the fake news, but what we have is that we need those two things: the digital literacy and the resources that could provide the fact check or reference for community to check whether this information is good or not. That's what we have in Jakarta, Osama. Thank you.
Thanks, Heru. I would like to take this forward. Where you said that I had listed these three things that if you are hyper-connected world, then what is very important to find out is that if in the hyper-connected world, if you are taking the connectivity to the community which is not connected so far, it is important that you need to figure out, are they information literate, are they media literate, are they digitally literate, do they have critical thinking, because you are going to be exposed to huge amount of information. How do you handle it? Do you have a reference checkpoint? Do you have a referral point? Do you have a fact checker? Do you have a belief system in the community that you do not believe in anything that is coming from outside? And in that manner, Waqas, I would like to come back to you to say that community network is a localized, contextualized community network. It's much more easier to be coherent and much more controlled within the community. How do you think that one can fight community, a safe community from misinformation, propaganda, rumors, and all hoax, and so many things? I mean, do you suggest some kind of bullet points or something?
I think first of all we have to understand that when we take internet to a small community, it is not necessary that the community may not be aware of the major issues, before you took the internet to them, because it's not just a community which is living in isolation. I mean, I know I quoted an example from that movie, but we're not taking internet to that kind of natives at the moment. When we take internet to these kind of communities, they probably already have TV. If they have electricity, they might have TV as well. So they'll already be aware of the major issues, at least of the of what's going on in the country or in the world. What the beauty of a community network is that it's a close interrelated community, right? So there's an advantage to it and there's a disadvantage. The pro is that the community is already connected. So so if there is misinformation on fake news, it will spread rapidly into that community. There is more chances of that information spreading into the community faster than what would happen in an urban area with us. But at the same time, if there is something which reverts that fake information, probably that rebuttal will also travel as rapidly within that community as the fake news spread. So this connectedness of that small community is something that has to be capitalized by the opinion leaders within that community, who are probably more literate, or they have more influence on that community to make sure that to make sure that the fake news or the information that they're getting, how do they verify that news, and how do they not actually believe everything that they read on the internet. I think in the previous session, somebody mentioned that in these kind of communities, probably Facebook is the internet, or the internet is Facebook. This is actually something that we have seen firsthand when we deployed community network in Pakistan in a remote village. But Facebook is not a social platform anymore, in a way that you don't just interact with your friends. You get loads of information on Facebook, which you probably don't require, and it just gets fed to you. So how do you actually filter that information, especially for people who are vulnerable in a small community, who are probably too young or too elderly, or may not have that level of education as we have in the urban areas? I think that is where the capacity building or the awareness sessions by those who are deploying that network in that community matters. Once you go into a community to deploy a network, it is absolutely essential to study that community itself first, understand what their values is, understand how they work, understand who the opinion leaders are, and then work with them, so that once you take the internet to that community, they're at least this much ready to make positive use of the internet, rather than believing everything that is being fed to them through social media. So I think this is my take on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Waqas. Lisa, one of the things that I have experienced is that in community networks, we started with irrespective of who makes it and all that. Gradually, we learned that if you have more women involved in community networks, in terms of managing, in terms of knowing, in terms of running a center, in terms of community mobilization, we feel that they become more responsible, it becomes much more accountable, it becomes much more steady and things like that. So with those gender coming in, and we are also seeing that you have less problem of misinformation and fake news when which is gender equal and more inclusive of women and other gender. How would you suggest that going forward? I mean, I'm going to come to Heru to ask. They have done it in common room, but what would you suggest is the kind of a framework in a small network to keep yourself guarded and safe from misinformation, propaganda, fake news, and so on and so forth?
Okay, definitely the inclusion of everybody is important. So it's not just the male, but also the female population there. We have experienced that actually in the Philippines, there are e-community centers. And I think in e-community centers, it's really more women who are actually using the available technology there, the internet that is being provided for free. And that is how they learn information. So it's important that you provide information to all. Of course, I agree that definitely you need the skills first. You have to train them. That's why when you have community networks, I agree that there should be access nodes or centers where you can provide this vital training. And this training should be both for the men and for the women. We know that women and men may have different needs, and the information that they access may also be different. For instance, women would require information about reproductive health, things like that pertaining to their bodies as women, which may not be the same as the information that are required by men. So it's important. It's vital, therefore, that they also have the same access. I think aside from that, partnerships are very important. Networks, community networks, can establish partnerships with the established organizations, the groups in the community, which are already vetted, the trusted ones that can provide the necessary information. Because if you don't trust somebody providing you the information, then sometimes you just let it pass. So that is important. Partnerships with, I don't know, media organizations, partnerships with the academe, that would help because they can provide the vital information that may be needed by the community.
Thank you very much, Lisa. When you were speaking, I was thinking that maybe we can have this line saying that this community network comes to you in a box with safe internet. It's something like
Definitely, I agree that the internet should be a safe space, especially for women,
Yeah,
because we have seen a lot of cases of violence that are hurled against women through the digital space as well.
yeah. And when I saying safe, it is also safety from misinformation,
Information,
fake news,
misinformation.
and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Heru, very quickly, in 2 minutes, can you explain your experience of how you reached out to rural communities through community networks, through common rooms experience of fighting misinformation? Because I heard that there are special cases of misinformation and fake news, and you could use your community networks to fight that. Can you share the experience in very quickly?
Yes, actually, what we experienced with Cameroon to provide the community center to the rural communities. The model that we established is we are, as Lisa has mentioned earlier, that we make internet center on the community. So the internet center is a place that actually is a physical place that everything that come from the internet is come from that place. So in the internet center, we provide people, resource person that could help community to explain anything to about the being digital. What should we do? How we could learn to do that. And actually, those kind of internet center model that we trying to implement in one and 2, 3 community that we try, we adopted the model is from the government of Jakarta. They established a lot of community center in Jakarta, but it's not worked so well because the facility is there, but there is no resource person or there is no people that run and could provide any guidance, any resources to talk about it. So we connect to a lot of organizations that have the capability to provide certain services that need to run the internet center. So for example, when we need to fight the fake news or hoax, we usually bring out some our friends from our partner from Indonesian fake news society to establish a training or a knowledge sharing about how how the community could develop skill to differentiate what is wrong and how to verify every information that they have. Actually, that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. one of the things that we have experience of doing is that irrespective of whether it's community networks, but we are certainly seeing that how misinformation is affecting local communities and societies. We have started training local people to become fact checkers, local people to become information kind of the responsible information providers, in the sense that they can be the fact checker in like in local, in villages, you have this one old man or somebody whom you ask every question, or so similar kind of leadership you create, information leadership with the community. But if I ask all three of you in one line, what would be your suggestion to fight misinformation at a community level? While the internet is becoming more and more hyper local and hyper connected, what is one line suggestion that you should there? All three of you, if you can give me one line suggestion, what would be my number one solution to fight misinformation at a community level?
For me.
For you, I mean, we start from you and end to Waqas.
From my experience, involve the people that the patron on the community. It's much faster to because anything that they said, usually member of the community will follow and have a trust in what he or she said about.
Lisa.
I think what can be done is to, of course, fact checking was there, but establish something like a watchdog of misinformation in the community, where people can also report fake news.
Wonderful. Waqas.
I'll just take a Russian quote and just modify it a little bit. That trust the internet, but verify. So I think this is something that the community can take on. They can trust what's available on the internet, but they have to verify before they actually believe it.
Okay, so what you're saying is trust the internet, access the information, don't believe it before you verify it. Okay, so I would as a moderator take my chance to say that don't forward. Simple. Anything verbal, on text, on video, just don't forward. To add what Waqas said, without verifying or without knowing where is it coming from, what is it, just make a habit. Listen, my dear panelists, please be there. We are going to ask our team back office to show a few videos, and then we come back and do a Q&A. And I would request everybody who is in attendance area or even among the panel area, those who are watching it, please form your questions, put it into Q&A or even in chat. And we will come back in about 10 minutes. I mean, we are here, but we are going to watch few videos, which we have requested from various practitioners to share here on this platform. So Heru, Lisa, and Waqas, please be around and let's watch a few videos, and then we come back to have a further 10-15 minutes of discussion to end it.
Hang on, we're just having a slight lag. Just hold on for a minute. We're having a bit of technical difficulty. Can we move on to the question? Oh, okay, sorry, it's working.
काढायचे आहे, परत जे पैसे जमा झाले असतील ते काढायचे आहे.
नमस्कार, मी अंजली भरत मत्रे. माझं लग्न झालेलं, तर माझे मिस्टर काही 5 वर्षाने वारले, तर मी आता इथंच राहते आणि माझं आता एक 4 वर्षाचं लहान बच्चू आहे, तर ते सांभाळायला लागतं. पण सध्या माझी परिस्थिती खूपच खालावलेली आहे. म्हणजे माझ्याकडं आता उत्पन्नाचं साधन काहीच नाही, तर मी पण मानसिकतेमध्येच आहे. आणि अशा वेळेस मला बायफने दोस्त म्हणून कृषी सखी असं निवड केली, तर त्याच्यातनं मला काहीतरी फायदा होईल का आणि थोडे पैसे माझ्याकडे येतील का असं मला वाटतं. माझं शिक्षण 10वी झालेलं आहे. नंतर मग मी करायचं ठरवलं, तर मग ते बायोफने माझं रजिस्ट्रेशन करून घेतलं. त्यासाठी आधार कार्ड आणि पॅन कार्डची गरज होती, तर ते पण माझ्याकडे नव्हते, तर मी ते 2-3 दिवसात करून घेतलं. आणि 28 तारखेपासून मग मी ते सर्विस द्यायला लागली. तर त्याच्यात मोबाईल रिचार्ज आणि लाईट बिल भरणे आणि मनी ट्रान्सफर करणे आणि पैसे चेक करणे व काढणे इत्यादी सुविधा.
अंजलीकडून पैसा काढतो. आता मला जायला भाडा नाही ना, एवढं दूर 50 रुपये भाडा, जायचा कुठं?
इथून पैसे काढतो.
मग इथं गावातच पैसे काढतो ना.
तुमचा दिवस वाचला का?
दिवस वाचला. एक मंजुरी आता 150 रुपये कोण देणार आहे?
आमच्या इकडे बस नाही, तर आमच्या लोकांना जाऊनमध्ये जायला खूप त्रास होतो, कारण की बस नसल्यामुळे जीपला जावं लागतं, तर 50 रुपये भाडं खर्च करून जावं लागतं आणि ते सुद्धा खूप गर्दी असते बँकेत, तर अख्खा दिवस जातो. काय करायचं आहे?
माझी मुलीची शिष्यवृत्ती 2-3 वर्षा भेटली नाही. यंदा 2 पैसे झाले जमा, किती आहेत ते बघले झाले. म्हणजे ताईकडे 2 वेळेस पैसे म्हणजे ताईकडून काढले. आणि माझ्या मुलीला कपडे घ्यायचे होते, पुस्तके घ्यायचे होते, वह्या, ते 60ची शिष्यवृत्ती जमा झाले का नाही झाले ते बघायचे होते. म्हणजे ताईकडे बघले तर माझे 50 रुपये वाचले, वेळ वाचला. परत मुलीची सुट्टी वाचली, शाळेची दिवस वाचला आणि इथेच मी पैसे काढले 2-3 वेळेस.
काय करायचं आहे?
मुलीचे पैसा शिष्यवृत्ती आहे ना, ते बघायचं आहे.
कशासाठी पाहिजे?
कपडे घेण्यासाठी.
आधार कार्ड आणलाय का?
आणलाय.
दाखवा आधार कार्ड. कोणत्या बँकेचं पासबुक आहे?
महाराष्ट्र. आनंद वाटला. काय माझे मुलीचे पैसे भेटले, लवकर तर माझ्या मुलीला कपडे लवकर घेऊन देणार. माझी रोज दिवस मुली शाळेत जाणार. मास्तरला विचारून की पैसे जमा झाले नाही झाले. ती वेळेस मी विचारलं तर महिना झालं तिथं, तीनदा आता जमा झाले.
पहिल्यांदा त्यांच्याकडे गेलं तर मला असं वाटलं की ते आता बिल भरता येते, खरोखरच भरता येईल की नाही, हे जरा असा प्रश्न पडला की ते भरतील की नाही. तर मी त्यांच्याकडे गेलो, त्या बिल दिला आणि मग त्यांनी माझा मोबाईल नंबर घेतला. मग तो मोबाईल नंबर त्या घेतल्यावर मग मेसेज आला की बिल भरलं, तर मग सक्सेसफुली असा मेसेज आला ना.
बिल भरलाय, मेसेजचा मोबाईल नाही येईल. हा घरात बघा. हा तुमचं पण लाईट बिलच आहे. हा तुमचा बिल भरले नाही. पेजचं काम जर आलं नसतं तर मी कुठे असते, माझ्या बाळाचं काय झालं असतं, मला रोजगार पण मिळाला नसता आणि मी माझ्या बाळाचे पण खूप, त्याला पण खूप त्रास म्हणजे हालत खूप होणार होते. पण हे APSचं काम आल्यामुळं मला रोजगार मिळाला, त्याच्यात मी माझ्या बाळाचं पण भागवते आणि माझ्या आईवडिलांचं पण भागवते आणि माझं स्वतःचं पण त्याच्यातच करते. तर मी खूप खूप आभारी आहे. जर आमच्या बातम्या माझं काम APSचं काम दिलं त्याच्याबद्दल मी खूप खूप त्यांची आभारी आहे.
The Village Space Station Project, or VBTS, was a research initiative implemented by the University of the Philippines. It is the first pilot deployment of community cellular networks here in the country. The project was motivated by the lack of basic communication access, especially in remote rural areas, as they are considered unprofitable due to the small potential subscriber bases and the lack of stable power sources, making the investments needed for these deployments difficult to justify. To address this connectivity gap, VBTS has partnered with local stakeholders to deploy community cellular networks. In particular, the network was able to operate through special agreements with the largest mobile network operator here in the country. On the technology side, the VBTS is a low-cost, solar-powered, compact 2G base station with VSAT IP backhaul. Local traffic is routed without ever leaving the village, while calls and texts bound for the broader public telephone network are interconnected through our partner's MNO core network. It is a prepaid network where subscribers purchase airtime credits for calls and SMS. All VBTS pilot sites were located in Aurora, Philippines. So these are all fishing and farming communities with populations that range from 200 to 2,000 people. It takes 4 hours of sea travel to reach the training center, which is also the nearest point where internet and cellular access can be attained during the time. Before VBTS was set up, there were only HF radio links mainly used to communicate with the local government. The impact of the project to these previously unserved communities can be summarized into 3 points. First, relief from anxiety due to the lack of communication avenues to their family members who are working or studying outside of their villages. Number 2, social capital formations like the introduction of new revenue streams and efficiencies in economic transactions. Number 3, there were also training opportunities for community members, especially in the enrichment of their technical expertise. As of January 2020, the active VBTS sites have transitioned from 2G GSM into Wi-Fi community networks because of the time-bound nature of spectrum agreements. The transition brought first-time internet access to these areas, hugely benefiting students, and it also enabled the communities to use social media as a communication platform. This year also, the management of the network has been fully transferred to the local community partners. We were able to get support to have additional community sites from the municipal government. However, plans for this were put on hold due to COVID-19. By sharing our experiences, we hope to open more opportunities for these communities, expand coverage, and connect more people to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Are those the only 2 videos we were supposed to show?
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. So let's go back to Heru and Lisa and Waqas. They are right here. Whenever I'm seeing these videos, I'm feeling so enriched, that, I mean, I'm sure that many of them may be available, but we got many of them made recently, but it's so enriching to go to see in different parts. And yeah, so coming back to our discussion, I think when we were going for these videos, there was one question already posed by Rajneesh Singh. how do you actually set up a mechanism that can verify the authenticity of news, information, etc. on social media, knowing that the sheer volume of information created every second is probably in the trillions? And we can contextualize it to say that how do you create this mechanism set for local community, or let's say community networks operator, or the community who is using community networks. So I think indirectly we are coming back to the similar kind of discussion, but more precise, that how do we create those systems? So I will start with Lisa and then go to Heru and then Waqas.
Okay, it's not that easy actually to fight misinformation, disinformation, fake news when you're talking about such a large volume of information that is available. It is difficult to fact check all of that, although fact checking, of course, works. But sometimes if you need information immediately, if you need it fact checked immediately, then it's not that fast that you can do it, because you have to check sources, etc. But I would still say that fact checking would help. But definitely media literacy is important, and it can be done in schools. It can be done in community networks, that have these centers that provide training. You have to be resourceful, of course, when you try to counter the misinformation that is available. You have to be creative. You can use memes, you can use video. In our case, we have this campaign on disinformation that is ongoing, and what we did was to come up with comics to reach the people. So we distribute that online and offline as well, because that is a medium that is, it's very visual, and people are attracted to colors. It's easy to read, and if it's short, and if the content is there, then that helps, I think. So, and yeah, the use of influencers as well. In communities, you have influencers. These are people who are experts whom you trust. So they are the ones who can help stop the spread of misinformation and fake news.
Yeah, Heru, I mean, I will just add to the question that usually the fake news and misinformation impacts happen in real time, but fact checking is a post effect. By then we have also seen that many times the effect happens. How do you fight that? You are muted.
Yeah, sorry. Usually, what we did is actually apart from the fact checking, the fact checking is as Lisa has mentioned. It's a tedious process. It's a bit longer process. But usually, we try to educate people to do simple check using any search engine, and then usually we can compare, and those kind of things is the step that we could do to verify any information that we have doubt on it. We put in on the infographic or in cartoon, as Lisa said, because usually people tend easier to understand pictorial information than the writing one. So usually that, and we cannot provide all of this all of the information that is coming through. Usually we work on the information that is based on the emergency or the how people will impact on the things, and then we work from that point onward. That's what we did, Osama. Thank you.
Yeah, Waqas.
Yes, I think, well, it's $1 trillion question in itself, which Raj has asked, but I think there are multiple dimensions to this. There are different stakeholders. I mean, if I just try to see it in a broader context. And of course, there is a role of a government to have proper regulation on how to tackle this. There is a role of the social media platforms, or the platforms, whatever online platforms are available, that once there is some news on their platforms, how do they actually share it, or how much they allow sharing of that information. There is a role of users, us as well, the community. What kind of online ethics do we have? How do we see news? How do we check it, and how do we forward it? Uh, but I think I just like to specifically focus on one point, and which is the social media platforms. This is particularly important because uh, these are the companies that have the resources to deploy a fact-checking mechanism, and that is by fact. If you go back 15 years, in 2005, Microsoft was the only company in top 8 in all of the world by market capitalization. In 2020, there is only one non-tech company in the same list of top 8. This is the kind of market power, the capital that they have at the moment, and uh, sorry to say, but they are the major source of spreading this information. There is no other source on the internet. There are sources, but I mean, of course, these are probably the biggest ones. I mean, if you can have a like button and an unlike button, you can probably have a verified and an unverified button. You can have a true button and a false button. You can crowdsource, verify that information through crowdsourcing, and give some sense of credibility to the news that is being shared on the platform. So, of course, we're talking about community networks here, but this problem is truly global. And if it gets solved at a global level, it will obviously have an effect on the community, on the way the community receives that information as well. So I'd like to go for the jugular here rather than beating around the bush. So yeah, it has to be done through the platforms.
Yeah, Waqas, well said. I was also, thinking that the way you were describing, if there is a like button, there should be unlike button, there should be a fact button, there should be uh, to be checked button or things like that or whatever. I was also thinking that why not, if some people can use artificial intelligence for creating misinformation, why can't we use artificial intelligence for fact checking or for asking information or asking for fact checking and things like that.
Osama, we can't hear you. Are you there?
I'm sorry, I think I got disconnected and then again automatically reconnected.
I thought
That's
you
what the big text do.
checked Osama, maybe. You must have said something wrong, so they cut you off.
Yeah, Raj, you're right. I think we need artificial intelligence to also figure out that what is the next word I'm going to say and accordingly get cut off. Yeah, so I was saying that why not use artificial intelligence for fact checking and all. But one solution that we have applied here and we are still developing is that we are developing chatbot which can be locally contextualized. So we are giving the chatbot in the hands of the people who are local, who are using it for asking information, asking for fact checking and things like that. And then there is a server based reply and the human based replies, which is going to come. But certainly we need a culture of fact checking. We need a culture of trust as well as verifies. That certainly nothing comes without question nowadays. You cannot just automatically believe in any straightforward thing. But I was also wondering, when you do fact checking, when you do fighting misinformation, what kind of basic literacy and education that we can propagate with the community before even they log in? Or I mean, what I'm saying is that earlier digital literacy never had a chapter or a module on safety security, and then gradually there was a module on misinformation and fake news. I mean, how do you think that we can train the local people? What kind of model we can adopt? Yeah, we can start with Waqas and then go back.
I think I'll echo with Lisa here. I think the role of schools or the academic institutions is super important, uh, because because that is where the young minds are being developed. And and uh, if you start inculcating ethical online usage from this age onwards, I think this can help immensely with what kind of culture that community eventually develops. Uh, and not to ignore the fact that these kids are actually more tech savvy than their elders are. So once they get trained, they can actually go on and not only have a culture within themselves, but also spread that within that close community that there is. So I think that is a starting point, in my opinion, to have these tech awareness sessions in schools. I'm not sure if could be if eventually down the line this should be a part of the curriculum as well. How to have a safe online experience for kids at schools. We at the chapter level have done some this kind of activity where we went to schools and tried to teach the children about safe use of internet back then, and we do hope to revive that project again. But we have seen the first-hand impact of those training sessions where the kids were actually better aware, and they didn't know many things that we've been told to them. So I think this is the starting point. That is where we should start to fight misinformation in these local communities.
Lisa, may I ask you to go next, please?
Sure. Um, I actually agree with Waqas. Media literacy is important in schools, especially start them young. If it can be in the curriculum, I think in some it is being taught. If it's a subject already in the Philippines in the curriculum, there is such a thing as media literacy. What is important here is that when you're training young people, you also train the teachers, because sometimes the teachers themselves, the adults, do not know how to spot fake news, what misinformation is all about. So you also have to train them. And then, so it would also be good to have partnerships perhaps with media organizations that are already adept at fact checking.
Heru.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I just want to add something that the only thing that we could fight the misinformation is only with the media literacy or digital literacy, but for sake of the practical things, usually what we tell or what we told or when we do a training in local society is that if you have information that is you have doubt on it, seek reference, try to search other source of information to compare them, and if you not sure the quality of your information, so those information should stop on you. Usually those things we told to member of local community when they have something to doubt or some information to be clarified.
Wonderful. So we are almost close to the session. I have a proposition to all three of you before we have the last tweetable comment from three of you. Is that DF has been working for the last couple of months on creating a misinformation or fake news toolkit for community networks, something like that. And we would like to collaborate with all of you to
Looks like every time Osama mentions something about fake news, he gets filtered out. So Osama looks like we have a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we wait for him to reconnect, maybe we can just do a last comment from everyone. If you want to add anything else to this discussion today. So starting with you, Lisa, perhaps?
Sure, Raj, thanks. Facts are important. Without facts, then you cannot establish the truth. Without truth, then our democracy is at peril. So facts are important.
Indeed, very well put. Heru?
Misinformation cannot be fight alone, so we have to establish multi-stakeholder solution for that thing. So let's work together to fight this misinformation thing.
And Waqas?
Yes, I'd just like to say that when we go to deploy a community network in a place, we look at the technical and the economic sustainability models of how to sustain it. I think we could probably add a social sustainability angle to it as well. That how will the community be able to sustain the use of internet eventually, especially with the focus on how we can save them from this misinformation and fake news problem. So I think like I said before, we have to teach the community to trust the internet, but also try to give them some sense of how to fact check the information before they use it. I think the toolkit is an interesting project, so Sama, we'd like to hear more about it. How are you going to fact check?
Osama, I've just asked them to make closing comments, and now that you are back, you've got a few minutes to wrap it up. So, and you were going to say something. Maybe if you say fake news again, you'll get cut off again. So choose your words carefully.
Yeah, so good. We have got tweetable comment from Waqas, and we can go to Heru so that we can end with Lisa. Heru, you are next.
Oh, they've already said the bits.
Okay.
All three are done, yeah.
So I would say the wrap up is that in each session, if we can make some joint effort, some next step together, is something that will be a great outcome from the organizers' perspective for both the ISOC and DEF. So as I proposed earlier, is that if you can collaborate on creating toolkit for misinformation and fake news with gender sensitivity for fighting, for community networks, that will be really, so I've got the thumbs up from Waqas. Lisa, what do you think, that would you be happy to join okay, great. So I see your head upside down, downside up. So yeah, great. Heru, how do you think that you can collaborate? Do you think yes from? Should I take yes from you?
Yes, I think yes.
Yeah, because you also have a good case study. You also have a good case study which we can include. Raj, would you like to say something, being organizer, a few words, and then we will end up, because we also have a couple of minutes before 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Sama. Thanks to all the panelists. Obviously, it's in some ways it's a difficult subject to talk about, isn't it? Particularly that somewhat cynical question I asked about, how do you actually fact check the trillions of messages that have been created literally every second. And that's why, and I think someone mentioned this when he was speaking earlier, that, one of the reasons that human beings are separated from, we are at the top of the chain of the animal kingdom is because we employ what's called critical thinking. We can look at things, we can analyze things, and we can figure out, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, etc., etc. And sometimes in the whole heat of things with social media, with the speed, at the speed at which information comes, I think people tend to forget that, and they tend to believe what's coming their way as opposed to processing that piece of information before forwarding it on or whatever. Community networks themselves, one of the things that we discussed when we were trying to set up this session in particular was the fact that community networks exist in small local communities, right? So literally everyone knows everyone else, particularly if you look at a village level in rural areas. So there's a good side and a bad side to it. One is that, if someone sends wrong information out, there's inherent trust in what someone has sent. But at the same time, if someone says, hey, that's not right, please don't do that, there are better chances of others saying, hey, okay, don't believe in that, let's move on from that. So it's an interesting dilemma in some ways, but I think also an opportunity that we could leverage, particularly knowing that in a lot of these areas, digital literacy is low, as well as traditional literacy is also low. So been trying, and perhaps using internet technologies, community networks, and just having a chat. One of the things we do very well in our communities in the Asia Pacific is having that little chat around, whatever beverage one takes in the evening, be it tea or some other local concoction or whatever it may be, and just having a chat. I see Osama and Waqas smiling because, in South Asia, it's what we call Sham ki chai, right? It's our evening tea, right? And you sort of look over what's happened over the day and try and look ahead to what's coming next over the next few days. So in those sorts of situations, I think having a local community and being able to engage with them is so much more important. In urban areas, we don't do that. How often do we now go to the neighbor's house? I mean, I suppose we can't right now with social distancing and restrictions in place. But even then, in the urban environment, is different, and in rural and rural communities, it's quite different. So I think there is an opportunity here for us to leverage, and I hope something positive can come out of this. And I've seen, all of the panelists and Osama have said that you want to pursue something along these lines. So I look forward to how that works out. So enough from me. Osama, back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I'm really excited that we are taking away something from this session to work towards, and we'll be able to provide that post, CNX. But thank you very much. I will request all three of you to please extend the invite to join the rest of the sessions, like on 26th, then 30th, then 2nd and 4th. Into the network that you are associated with, in the the mailing list that you have, so that maximum number of people, because invariantly we are seeing that we are also discussing larger issues apart from just purely community networks, so which is useful for anything around access, around rights, around many more things. So I would certainly request, Waqas, you have your own mailing list, Lisa, you have your own. Please forward this information and please invite them to join. And you also please find time to join in on 26th. Again, on the same time, we will be back. And till then, see you soon.
See you.